interesting game between two teams. Down the stretch, normally, week 17, we get a lot of divisional matchups, but here this is an AFC matchup, non-divisional matchup. What is your matchup that matters here between the Dolphins and the Browns?
I'm looking at just how the Browns try to get pressure on Tua with how quickly he gets the ball out. So it's the Browns versus how quick Tua gets the ball out because he's
Okay.
averaged the quickest time to throw in the NFL this season, 2.42 seconds. And he's attempted a pass in under 2.5 seconds on 62.2% of his attempts, which is the highest rate in the NFL. So that's all to say that Tua gets the ball out extraordinarily quickly. And that lessens the amount of time that you have to get pressure, to affect the quarterback, to do all of that. That's obviously by design, given the fact that this Miami Dolphins offensive line, I don't think is up to par with having a quarterback who's been injury prone, B, a quarterback that you just paid behind him. I talked at length prior to the season even starting about how much I thought that the Miami Dolphins should invest more in the offensive line and how I was so surprised that they didn't. But it helps when your quarterback gets rid of the ball extraordinarily quickly. And so even going against a guy like Myles Garrett and the Browns defensive line, um, yeah, I don't know how you get to him when the ball's leaving his hands that fast.
Yeah, I mean it makes it very difficult, and it mitigates a good pass rush like we talked about with Patrick Mahomes at the top of the show. Like they've shifted their entire game plan to be like, all right, we don't have guys who can block in front of us. Well, we better get the ball out of our hands quickly. And I think what goes into, mitigating a pass rush is certainly the run game as well, how well they were able to run the football last week. Miami's rushing last week, Devon Achane, 120 rushing yards on 17 carries.
Finally.
Yeah, 78.7 rushing grade. That was his highest since week 11. Tua, when he's, play action, 9 for 13, 91 passing yards. And so it felt like it was all really working for the Miami Dolphins last week. And part of mitigating a good pass rush is, getting the ball out of your hand quickly, but it's also that run game that's complementary. It's also, the swing game, the screen game, things like that. And it felt like that was all really working for the Dolphins. And so how they played last week goes into sort of your matchup that matters and continuing to do that against a defensive line that has a guy like Myles Garrett on it. So the Miami run game really is the matchup that matters to me versus the Browns run defense. Browns, since week 8, 72.1 run defense grade as a team, so they are pretty good. So we'll have to see whether or not Miami can continue that momentum moving forward in this one. My plus factor, just to shout out Jordan Brooks, the linebacker for Miami, and how well he has been playing. 90.9 run defense grade, 90.2 pass rushing grade over the last month. So he's been playing some really good football. I believe he is actually, Edgerrin Cooper, I think, is the highest graded linebacker over
Yes.
the last month,
Yeah,
which we'll
he's
get to
been
him
killing
in a
it.
couple of games. He's been unbelievable. But Jordan Brooks is right behind him, and that's no like, oh yeah, what a cute month he's had. No, he's having a really good month, and he deserves a shout out here. He's been a big time X factor in the middle of that Miami defense. So to me, that plus factor is Jordan Brooks and his continued play to really elevate the rest of that team.
Yeah, my plus factor is just again Tyreek Hill because it's just the pace that he's on, and it looks like that's the pace he's going to finish with. Career lows in yards per route, catch rate, EPA per target. The yards per route is one thing. Again, like when you talk about how quick Tua gets rid of the ball, you don't that's not conducive to longer developing routes to let Tyreek kind of get downhill. But no pun intended. I just realized I did that. And
You were talking
uh,
about Taysom Hill, of course.
Yeah, of course. The catch rate, though, is really kind of what stands out to me when you talk about the career lows that Tyreek Hill has had. And yes, obviously, Tua Tagovailoa missed quite a bit of the season, but Tyreek Hill's catch rate of 63.1% is just it's not indicative of a guy that's supposed to be your number one target. So I want to see them kind of get on the same page because if you've got nothing else to do, it's to kind of build up that rapport again. And I don't know. It's been interesting just to not be left wanting with Tyreek Hill week after week this season.
The fact of the matter is, before we move on to the next game, is that if the Browns don't play better at the quarterback position, none of this is going to matter. Dorian
Right.
Thompson
Yeah, that's
Robinson,
fair.
49.4 passing grade. I talked about this during the review show. If you were making the change at quarterback because Jameis Winston was hurt, like the shoulder injury kind of sort of like kept him out from starting this game, okay, I suppose I get it. If you're making a quarterback change just because like you want to go to Dorian Thompson Robinson, I don't know. Just don't play the next two games.
Yeah.
Just forfeit. Like let everybody have an extra couple of weeks off. Like I understand. Look, we've talked about this on this show. We've lived the Jameis roller coaster. We covered the Jameis roller coaster. It's incredibly frustrating. I get it. Jameis very clearly gives you the ability to win football games. Now, does he also take into his own hands the ability to lose football games? Of course he does. But like, in my opinion, DTR doesn't really individually give you the ability to win football games. And I say that now, and he's going to have an elite PFF passing grade this game, and they're going to have a triumphant win against the Miami Dolphins, and it's going to be incredible. But from what we have seen of DTR basically throughout his entire NFL career, his floor might be higher than Jameis Winston's, but his ceiling is so much lower. You're not really giving yourself a chance to win football games, especially from how Cleveland's defense has played this year. They've been fine, but they haven't been the dominant unit that they have been in years past. So if they're going to stick with Dorian Thompson-Robinson, again, if he just doesn't play way better, if the ceiling isn't raised for how he is willing to push the ball down the field, and if he is willing to do that with more regularity, then I don't think really any of this is going to matter from what we saw last week.
For sure.
Thanks for watching, everybody. Make sure you like and subscribe the video. And if you don't have a PFF Plus subscription, you can get one to see all the premium stats that we talked about here on the show, plus the expert betting and fantasy advice over at subscribe.pff.com. The description is also right below. So if you are not a PFF Plus subscriber, you can become one today.